Hey everyone, welcome back to Grind and Shine. Today we're super happy to have Jake from Preferred Coffee, the CEO and co-founder, to join us. Welcome, Jake.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
Yeah, so we're super excited. We have 2 bottles of Preferred Coffee right in front of us, one caffeinated, one decaffeinated. I've tried once in a cafe and it was super delicious. It tastes like coffee. Super excited to see how it's made and have Jake talk about his story and how he started his own journey with us as well. So should we give it a try?
Yeah, let's get into it. So I can share a bit about what we have here today. So these are Prefer oat lattes. So we have a decaf and a caffeinated version. So essentially how we make these is we use our coffee grounds, cold brew them, add in some oat milk, and then voila, here we have it.
Wow.
So yeah, this is our best seller is the caffeinated, and happy for you to try either or. I think it's 2:30, you can still have caffeine.
Yes, let's try the caffeinated
All right,
one.
go for it.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay. So maybe Jake, you can let us know a bit your background and how you started Prefer.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, I grew up in Texas, and then I was a tennis player all my life and was recruited to play tennis at a school in Los Angeles. So I played tennis and studied neuroscience.
Wow.
I just love science.
Yeah.
So yeah, feel free to give that a try and ask you what you think.
It tastes like very nutty, very chocolate, and it's so nice.
Yeah,
It's
a lot
nice.
of people sort of like see it as somewhere. It's like a mocha in a way. People sort of see it also as malty, like a Milo. So a lot of people call it like Milo coffee. So just to continue the story.
Yeah,
So yeah,
sure.
I studied neuroscience in LA, and then graduated and got recruited by a biotech startup in Tel Aviv.
Nice.
And that's where I started learning about sort of the intersection between science and startups, and taking some of the things I was working on in academia and then into actual industry. So I really fell in love with startups. It was a small team of 5, grew to 10 people, and that was an amazing experience. And it was, I would say, biotech I found to be not my like true passion. So I essentially wrote our like clinical trial, and then I learned that it was going to take another like 10 years for us to actually get to market. And I was like, I don't have time for this. But also at the same time, and even more importantly, I started learning more about climate change and sort of wanted to do my part in that. So then I left that startup and started investing in startups as a venture capitalist, investing in sustainable foodtech startups, trying to make a more sustainable food system. And that's where I started learning more about some of the issues going on in coffee, but didn't really have a solution to that myself. Moved to Singapore in 2022 to finish my MBA at NUS. I started to get my MBA at Tel Aviv U, and that's where I met DJ, my co-founder. He's a A-star scientist. I've been making flavors from fermentation his whole career, and basically we came up with this idea to make coffee without using coffee beans.
Wow. That is quite a journey. And can you share with us more on the motivation behind or like the impact you would like to create through creating Preferred Coffee?
Yeah, so I think the motivation is the impact for me personally. For me, I started Prefer to do my part in fighting climate change. Not to go too deep into details or data, but coffee is a crop that is not only threatened by climate change, but also contributing to climate change. And so to have climate impact at scale, coffee is one of these food and beverages that we need an alternative for. So if we can do this at scale, we can have a massive climate impact at scale.
Yeah, we can dive a bit deeper into that area later. And how did the idea of like using fermentation technology to create like different flavors come across in your mind?
Yeah, so that started when I was investing at the venture capital fund. I started learning about some of the technologies, like there's like plant-based, there's fermentation, and there's cultivated, so like lab-grown stuff. And each of them has their own benefits and challenges. I think with plant-based, they're running into problems of getting it to taste just as good, and it's also slightly more expensive. With cultivated or lab-grown, they're really struggling with issues of scaling up in price, but they're able to basically get the same flavor because they are just basically cloning it in the lab. But with fermentation, it was really exciting for me because people seem to be getting closer, if not the same, on the taste, and also at scale, able to actually be a more affordable option. And so I think if any of these sort of alternatives are going to have a chance, it has to be just as delicious, if not more delicious, and less expensive. And that's sort of the only way that you're going to get people to switch over.
Yeah, that was a very smart decision because we've heard a lot about plant-based products. They're trying to mimic the flavors of meat, but then your team, like you and DJ, like thought about fermentation. I knew that in the R&D phase, you guys actually started in DJ's house, doing the fermentation and trying out different flavors. How did it all happen?
Yeah, so I mean, the first 6 months we were doing R&D out of DJ's kitchen. It wasn't really a choice. We had no money. So, I mean, we were legitimately just like roasting stuff over his stove, trying to roast it in his oven. Like, we were just like using everything we could, going to like the local grocery store to like get some bread, like to get what we needed. So then we ended up getting pre-seed funding from Entrepreneur First, just based on the product we were able to make out of the kitchen. And then that money allowed us to get space in our first lab, which is just a little bench. And then that first lab, we could make a product that was good enough to go and raise our seed round, which is around 2 million USD. And now we have 50 square meter space, and soon to be scaling up into a much larger space at the end of this year.
And for those who are in the coffee industry, but not necessarily in the venture space, Entrepreneur First, they are venture capital and also accelerator incubator in Singapore supporting startup growth. And did you submit the idea when you actually have the company, or it's like you went into EF and then start the idea?
Yeah, so the way that I describe EF is like a beautiful love child between Love Island and startups. So what I mean by that is you actually like enter the equivalent of Love Island before you have an idea. The same way they go like trying to find their match, you enter EF trying to find your match to go start a company. So neither DJ or I had this idea before going in. We came up, first of all, we sort of understood each other that we have similar values. Obviously that's super important when starting a company with someone. Secondly, that we're very interested in starting something in food technology. Thirdly, that we both believe in fermentation as the food technology we want to use. And then it was basically up to us. Okay, what product do we want to make from fermentation technology? And that's where we started speaking to people in the coffee industry. And basically we were like, if we could make a product that was just as good and more affordable, but it wasn't coffee, like would you still buy it? And they're like, yeah, if taste is good and price is right, like I don't really care as long as it's like the same experience. So that's when we decided to double down on coffee.
Got it. And speaking of the impact of preferred coffee, how does it contribute to climate change?
So we need to get a full life cycle analysis done by a verified third party. And we've done some calculations in-house that have shown that we use around 10 times less CO2 than traditional coffee bean production would. So essentially that means that for every kilogram of coffee that is made and then bought by someone, we have around 10 times CO2 avoidance, they call it in the industry. So that's sort of what we are trying to do, is create impact of carbon footprint reduction, basically avoiding carbon footprint in the coffee industry.
Got it. And when you talk about carbon footprint in the traditional coffee farming, how does it all work? Is it like from the get-go, the amount of water farmers use, or it's the method they use to harvest the beans? Can you share with
so
us?
it's the process of going from blank land to growing coffee, the crop, and then harvesting it, and then all downstream energy to produce it and then roast it and all of these things. That it's a quite intensive process. But the biggest levers that are causing such a large carbon footprint by coffee is total land use
Yeah.
to just the small amount of output. So it's just a ton of land for such a small little thing coming out. Also, it's water use.
Yeah.
It's a ton of water to get that thing to grow, again, for such a small amount of output. And those are the main two. Actually, a lot of people think about unsustainability in coffee coming from like packaging, like pods and all that.
Yeah.
But actually, 80% of the carbon footprint is coming from
Coffee
on the
farming.
land. Yeah. So I'm not here to like put down coffee farming or coffee production. I love it. I love coffee. I just think that there should be a more sustainable option,
way.
not only for the planet but also for our pockets. Because as climate change continues to wreak havoc on supply, prices coming up. So
Yeah.
we're trying to make not only the carbon footprint more sustainable, but also just the cost.
Yeah, understand. And let's dive into the exciting part on the fermentation technology. I know that it's made from soy, barley, and bread. So, without disclosing too much information, can you share with us how does this work?
Sure. No, I'm a pretty open book, and DJ knows all the technicalities much more than I am. So I may be playing dumb, but actually I think that there's some things that are still over my head, even though I know the process front to end. It's pretty incredible what DJ and the product team are able to do with different fermentation techniques. But essentially what we do is we acquire bread, soy, and barley from local manufacturers of these ingredients, more specifically the byproducts.
Yeah.
So we get day-old bread from Gardenia. We get okara, which is a byproduct of turning soybean into soy milk from Mr. Bean.
Yeah.
And we get spent grain from local breweries like Brewerkz, 1925 Brewing Co. And then we get these three products and we ferment them with very specific yeasts and microbes and fungi that essentially create coffee's flavors. And then after we have sort of this kind of mushy consistency, we put this into the oven to roast it. And then we grind it up into either more coarse ground if we're going to cold brew it, or basically turn it into an RTD, or we turn it into an espresso grind for the cafes that we work with. And then we essentially either distribute those espresso grounds to cafes, or we cold brew it and turn it into oat lattes, and that goes to retail. And then we also cold brew it to coffee concentrates. And these coffee concentrates, we work with bars and ice cream shops right now. But really that's just an ingredient of the coffee flavor for chefs or bartenders to use as they would another coffee flavoring.
Got it. And from the R&D to going into commercial scaling and then going to different shelves and selling to corporates and businesses, how did you do the transition from R&D to commercialization?
I think that we actually had a commercial plan while we were in R&D. So like while DJ was working in the kitchen, I was out in coffee shops, out at restaurants,
Speaking to
hotels,
people,
bars. I was getting feedback on a product before we had it. I was like, what would you want this to look like? And then they would share, and then I would share back with DJ. And so we sort of had this product feedback loop before we even had a product to sell them. So that by the time that we got our green light from the SFA that we were ready to go to market, we were safe. We already had customers lined up that were buying the next day. We were literally in the stores 2 days later. So it wasn't like we were just focused on R&D and like building in stealth. We were very loud. Like we were like, hey, we're doing this thing. Who wants to be the first people to have this in their stores? And that was really exciting for people. So I think always we've built this with the commercial in mind. What is the business case? And that has been the North Star as we've done R&D. And same with all the product we've launched. We haven't launched a product without knowing that someone was going to buy it the day that it was produced. So that's sort of our philosophy on R&D.
Do you think that was your key strategy of like, being loud and talking to people and asking for the feedback and then work on the product?
I think, well, first and foremost, we wanted to be really sure that we were actually solving a problem. We weren't going to build a company and quit our jobs and commit ourselves to this if no one really cared what we were doing. This isn't like a passion project. So that was really important to us, is to make sure that this was an actual problem. And then from there, understanding how we can help the problems that people are sharing, and in what format would they want it. Like, how do you want this oat latte, for example? We learned that around 80% of sales, like you're saying, is in this format of an oat latte. So no point in putting out a black coffee to start.
Yeah.
Maybe down the road, but that's not like the first product that you do just to test and show that there is demand for it.
Yeah.
With the coffee concentrates, that wasn't part of the roadmap at all. And then we were at bars, and they were like, it's really annoying for me actually to have to like pull an espresso shot every single time. Every single morning I like go and I like pull a bunch of espresso shots, and I was like, okay, what if we just like give you basically the espresso shot just ready to go in a cold brew, you just put it in there, like that would save me some time, that's cool. So just like trying to understand, thinking about the sales process as like, how can I help some of the problems you're having, and then we can see if we can have a solution to that. But that's sort of starting with the problem first and then working back to the solution, rather than like, hey, we have this, who wants it? That's sort of like opposite than that.
Got it. I actually tried Prefer in a cafe, though.
Nice.
They make really good Prefer espresso, so it was a very good one. And what was their pain point, and how did you pitch to them?
So Dough was an interesting one, and one that we were really, really excited about because they had just won the barista championships that year. And so we went to Dough and we were like, hey, like, we have this new product, and we sort of pitched it more as you can be a first mover. This is like a novel thing where you could be like leading. And that's sort of the I guess it wasn't a problem that we're solving for them, but it was something really interesting for them, so that they could be like a first mover in the space where they already were like winning. So just to keep like cutting edge for them. So them in particular, also we are a more affordable option. So they can make more margins on the product that they push. Every time they sell a Prefer, they make more margins on that. So it's sort of like a win-win for them, where they're getting a more affordable option, and also they can remain like cutting edge and be a first mover in the space.
And you talked about going through SFA, right? Singapore Food Agency. How was your experience going through that, and how does that impact your product development?
Yeah, so going through the SFA process was long. At first, we were being categorized as a novel food. And the issue with being categorized as a novel food is that it could take up to 2, maybe even 3. It could take a long time to get through the process with them, basically to prove to them that it's safe. And so we spent a lot of time on the phone with the SFA, having the SFA come to check out our lab, basically prove, and what we needed to prove to them was that it was safe. And the way that we did that was, hey, look at all of our ingredients. They've all been used in food and beverage forever. Hey, look at all of the microbes that we're using. They've all been used in fermentation forever. Hey, look at the process we're using. This is the same process that's used to make other things we enjoy, like beer and wine already. It's just a new product. We don't use genetically modified organisms. We don't use cell cultivation. We don't use any technology that like hasn't been proven and shown in the market to be safe over and over and over. And so we were able to convince them to switch their categorization of us into a non-novel food, and that allowed us to go to market. So front to end, it took us around 6 months from starting our conversation, and they were amazing in working with us, basically helping to sort of write the regulation around this, because it's the first of its kind, and so they didn't know how to categorize it. So we're just trying to be understanding and give them all the information that they needed.
What is an example of a novel food?
An example of a novel food is cultivated meat. So we have our friends at Vow Foods. They have just launched, it's called Forged. It's cultivated quail, and they just launched with Mandala Club here, and now they're in Tippling Club. So they have had years back and forth with the SFA to get it approved for sale, and so now they've been able to do that. They're just an incredible team over there that are really spearheading that market.
Back to Prefer, would you say dominating the coffee market first in Singapore and even replacing some of the traditional coffee will be your goal, or not?
I don't think that we will be replacing coffee companies' coffee supply anytime soon. I do believe that we will be an option for the next couple of years. So we'll be either like a decaf option, or in some stores we're a double caffeine option here in Singapore. I believe that there will be a point in which the price of coffee will get so high that they have to price their coffee at a price point where people aren't able to buy it anymore. At that point, we need to be ready for the call. And the call will be, hey, basically this problem's gotten too big. Will you just be our coffee supplier? And we're like happy to do that and
Yeah.
decrease your costs.
Yeah.
So we just need to be scaled up and ready for when that call happens from the biggest coffee companies in the world. And I believe that's in the next 5 to 10 years. We just need to be scaled up and globally ready for that when it happens.
Yeah, and you also mentioned by 2050, the coffee supply would actually go down and the price will go up. So
Yeah, I mean, already that's happening if you look at commodity prices. But I mean, people like big, clear numbers. So I mean, the numbers are by 2050, 50% of coffee farmland will not be able to grow coffee anymore.
Yeah.
Also by 2050, demand's expected to rise by 3 times, basically because China and India think coffee is cool now. They're switching from a fully tea into a tea and coffee culture.
Got it.
So we're really excited to ride that wave in Asia and be a more affordable option for these businesses that we work with.
Got it. And how have consumers or coffee companies, cafes react to your coffee when they first tried it?
When businesses first hear about this, they're like, you're trying to put me out of business. Like, what is this? I'm a coffee company. What are you trying to do? But then we're like, actually, no. Like, we're not trying to disrupt what you're doing. We're trying to support you with a more affordable supply of coffee. And same with the large businesses. Like, what are you doing? It's like, no. We're actually trying to help you decrease your costs and your carbon footprint. We're not trying to like completely disrupt you. So I think that's been one thing about when people first hear about us, you almost have to come in like ready to defend yourself because that's what they think.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's on us to continue our communication as well as we go. With end consumers, mostly it's like, oh, this is kind of interesting. Like, this is cool. Like, I'll try that. And then once they do try it, it's been overwhelmingly positive. I mean, just having you go out and try it and just like give this positive feedback, it's amazing. And I'm not here to say that every single person is like, that tastes exactly like coffee. But very, very rarely are we hearing people say like they don't like it. Pretty much everyone is like, I like it. Not everyone is saying like it tastes exactly like coffee, but I like it.
Yeah.
And even for some people, like they don't like the really, really bitterness of coffee. And so like, I actually like this more than coffee. And we're finding that a lot, especially with the younger generation. So we're not asking like auntie or uncle to change the same like Copio place they've been going to for the last 50 years. That's not what we're saying. But for the next generation who is like just getting into coffee, that's who we're really trying to focus on and actually like make this their routine and their habit.
Wow, nice. Yeah. And what would you say is the top 3 customer segments you have?
Today,
Yeah.
it's cafes, bars, and corporate pantries.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for your roadmap, what is the goal for the next few big segments?
Yeah, I think next for us would be hotels and FMCGs. So with hotels, we could be either at their bar for espresso martinis, in their fridges in the room,
fridges,
and some of them have like pick up and go quick cafes that we could
Yes.
be either the coffee there or in the fridge.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of really fun options with hotels. And then with FMCGs, it's essentially as an ingredient for them to use in their already existing product. So for example, if they already have like capsules, then we would just be the ingredient in their capsules. Or if they do a bunch of canned coffee, then we would be the ingredient in their canned coffee. So they already have like all the downstream stuff set up.
Yeah.
We would just sell our coffee grounds to them and they know what to do. It just fits into their operations already.
Wow, got it. So do you do capsules now?
No, we do not do capsules because it's slightly too high of an MOQ for us to reach with our current manufacturing capabilities. Next for us on the actual product roadmap will be instant coffee and capsules that'll be coming in hopefully by the end of this year as we scale up into our new facility should be set up by the end of the year.
On your personal journey in the last 1.5 years, what would you say has been your biggest joy in the business?
Joy. I think this one's unexpected, but I think having like a team just working on something that was once an idea that the team is all fired up about. They're coming in every day. They're setting up late on a Friday night. Like they're just like working hard. I come into work and they're just working away.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not a dad, but like I'm sure that there's some overlap between like the pride of like being a dad and like seeing, I don't know, like family.
Yeah.
So that's been an absolute joy and very unexpected. I didn't think about that at all going into this.
Yeah. And waking up every morning, what keeps you going on?
Oh. That's a hard one. I think One is just the mission that we're on, just truly believing and knowing that I have to be great every day for this to work. We all have to be great every day for this to work. And there's such an amazing opportunity. I just am fired up to do it. Two is I think that any entrepreneur can relate, and there is just like this slight bit of paranoia that you always have that you're not going fast enough. Other people are doing it better, faster, cheaper. The biggest companies in the world are working on this, which is all true. People are trying. So I think there is just this slight healthy paranoia that sort of just like, I don't really have an option to slow down. Like I don't wake up in the morning and be like, like how am I feeling today? I'm like waking up and I'm like, all right, let's go. Like I'm up. So it's just like, it's not really something that I think about what is motivating, but I'm definitely very, very motivated.
Is there anyone that inspired you to set up a business or has been there along the journey for you?
In the last 1.5 years in particular, I think it's been DJ. So my co-founder, like every day just coming up, we're just figuring stuff out together. We both have no idea what's going on and using all information we possibly can to make important decisions, and we often make the wrong decisions, but never do I feel blamed. Never do we point fingers at one another. You just get back in the trenches and keep going and try to make more decisions based on very little information. So I think just like having a co-founder is and in particular DJ, he's a very special person, and so like without him none of this would happen. And I would always recommend to get a co-founder whenever you start something. It's hard enough to do with two, and I don't know if it's possible on your own. Well, it wouldn't be for me at least.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jake. Thank you so much for coming to the podcast. Before we end, we're going to play a little game.
All right.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's called Quick Shots.
Okay.
I'm going to fire you some questions, and you have to answer within 10 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah? Yeah. Do you need some coffee?
I think I'm good.
Okay. Where can we find you in the weekends?
Sentosa Beach.
If you have to choose a theme song for Prefer, what would it be?
It was really cringy, but I don't know why this song came to mind. Just because of our branding and everything. Yeah. I think Young, Wild and Free by Wiz Khalifa comes to mind. Just trying to have fun with it. Yeah.
What has been a special feedback for Prefer from people who have tasted it?
I think my favorite so far has been, this isn't the worst coffee I've ever had.
How did you feel?
Great. It's not the worst coffee they've ever had.
Okay. 3 words to describe Prefer.
Fun, delicious. Affordable is such like a business thing, but I mean, what we try to do is we try to make like delicious and affordable coffee like for the long run. So yeah, I think just fun and delicious is what we try to do. Okay, sure. Nice. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jay, for coming in. Please have a try if you want to see how it tastes like. So we'll be in around 20 locations in Singapore. Some cafes you might know would be Dough in Chimes, Forward Coffee Roasters, and a few others as well. Some bars you might know are Cafe Fernet by Jigger and Pony, Courtyard, and a few others as well. And those are the main places you can go get it. All of the locations are on our website, prefer.coffee. You can go see where you can find us. Nice, thank you. And please follow us on YouTube and Instagram, Grind and Shine Podcast. And we'll see you very soon. Bye. Thank you, Jake. Thank you very much.